Yes, what is up, Nosy here, one half of the FPL Draft Duo, and today we're looking at hidden gems in the FPL Draft mode. It is going to be our last video prior to Game Week 1, and we really appreciate all the support in all forms, social media, YouTube, and the podcast. If you can hit that subscribe button while the intro is playing and get us to our goal of 500 subscribers, we would be eternally grateful. So let's get straight into it. We are looking at hidden gems in the FPL draft mode. And by hidden gems, I'm talking about players that might go under the radar compared to their value. So they might be picked in later rounds than I think they're worth. If they are, I'm going to call them a hidden gem. There are a lot of them we've heard of, some of them we may not have, and some of them could really help your drafting strategy. If you can leave some of these hidden gems to later on in the draft, you might have more opportunity to pick better players earlier on. If we're looking at our honourable mentions here, we have loads of them. We have Minte, Kwanzaa, Hall, Jesus, Spence, Tsimikas, Pau and Rogers, and these are all players that essentially were or could have been hidden gems but aren't just quite hidden gems for one reason or another. So I'll start with my guy on the top left, Minte, and Minte has had an unbelievable preseason with Brighton, and that's why people are taking him very early. Probably 10 days ago, he was going in real late rounds. The last couple of days, he's been going up round 6, round 5, round 7. So averaging around the round 6 there, and I think that's okay. That's not too bad. I wouldn't be taking him any earlier. I think he's going to be a great asset, but there's going to be a lot of players to prioritise prior to him. Next up is Kwanzaa, and Kwanzaa I think will start game week 1 for Liverpool. I said it in my Defenders episode, and I think he will. Even if he does get rotated with Kanate, every 3 games, if he gets 3 out of 5 games, I think that's very good value, and you can get Kwanzaa in the late rounds. He is coming in some drafts, around the 9 and 10, which still isn't bad for a Liverpool defender, but you do want them to be nailed if you're taking them around that 9-10. There's going to be loads of defenders that are going to be nailed around them rounds. So I still think he's decent value, but he's kind of coming away from that hidden gem category. Lewis Hall will probably be the starting left back for Newcastle this year. He has been in the real late rounds, slightly coming in the last couple of days, but still you can get him as your 4th defender very easily. Gabriel Jesus is someone I was not hot on at the start of the year at all. He has come in my evaluations, but he has slightly gone down again, I think, to his kind of true value. He was being drafted in round 8, 9. Then he came in as far as round 3. He is not nailed up top. I think if you're picking a striker that early, they have to be nailed. If you get him around 5, that's okay as a second striker. That's perfect for me playing for a big team and will play a majority of minutes. But I think taking him as your first striker, big no for me. If you can get him in the late rounds, maybe he can be a bit of a gem. He didn't start the last game for Arsenal, so that might be a good thing for people who are thinking of picking him up. I have Spence down here, left back for Spurs, who will probably play game week 1. Edoji's coming back from that injury. He might make game week 1. Spence against Leicester game week 1 is more of a punt rather than a hidden gem. So just to note that if you are looking for a left back and Doji doesn't play, don't worry. He'll probably be back game week 2, if not game week 3. But Spence is a 1-week punt against Leicester, not bad. Tsimikas for Liverpool again will probably start game week 1, even though I've got good information from my good mate FPL Quinner. If you're looking for normal fantasy tips, give him a follow. There was a behind closed doors game for Liverpool yesterday. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? Whenever they had their last preseason game, they also had one behind closed doors, and Robertson did play. Probably not fit enough to start game week 1. Tsimikas against Ipswich game week 1 will be a great 1-week punt who you can probably get, again, the last 3 or 4 rounds as a 5th choice midfielder or defender. Pau Torres, I've said in my defender episode, he was not drafted in some of them. He was going around 14, 15. I was like, this is unbelievable. We have a starting defender for Villa in the late rounds. The problem is Diego Carlos, there is talks of him going to Fulham, so again that might get people thinking, saying, oh hold on, Pau Torres is going to be number 1 centre back for Villa. him and Konza, so on and so forth. So I think he was extremely good value. I still think he's good value as a 4th or 5th choice midfield or defender, and I think you'll be able to get him in the late round. So don't be panicking with the defenders. There is a good few hidden gems. And then Rodgers. Rodgers, again, about 10 days ago, you get him whenever you want. Now he's coming in as far as round 6 and 7 and 8, which is very, very high for me, or very low, whatever way you want to look at it. I think he's going to be a great player, but I think if you're picking him like round 5 and 6, I think that's too early. I think you have to go around 7 or 8. And I know that doesn't seem like a big difference, but the difference from 5 to 8, the difference in the quality of player is absolutely massive. Still think he's going to be a nice little pickup as maybe a 3rd or 4th choice midfielder, but don't go on him too early, because there will be a huge amount of good midfielders available in the first 6 rounds. Our next one, and I suppose he's not much of a hidden gem, it's a big money move, but I think he can be really, really effective in the draft. He has been unbelievable in pre-season. His strengths, I think he's nailed for Fulham. They paid 30 million for him. They're not going to bench him. I think he's going to be the heart of Fulham, and watching him play in the pre-season, oh my god, it was like prime Smith Rowe at Arsenal. He was absolutely quality, linking up play. So he's going to be that nailed number 10. Too old. Banged 2 goals in pre-season, looked really, really well, and he could be on some set pieces. I don't know yet. Just a note on Smith Rowe. There's a load of central players. I said it in the last episode. Andres Pereira was a great, great pick until Smith Rowe came. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how they're going to set up. But the likes of Iwobi, the likes of Andres Pereira, the likes of Wilson, they're all gone down the pecking order for me. I kind of avoid them if you're drafting, unless it's kind of 2 or 3 of the differentials you're going to pick. They have to be nailed. Emile Smith Rowe is one of those nailed players. His weaknesses, as I said, his lack of playing time at Arsenal, but he's hit the ground running at Fulham, so I think that's irrelevant. The problem with him is he might go early. He might go, an Arsenal fan who really liked him might pick him in round 5. He has been going around round 7. I think if you get him at round 7, round 8 as your 4th choice midfielder, I think a 4th choice midfielder, Smith Rowe, is going to be a brilliant cog in that midfield. I'd nearly go 3rd choice midfielder based on what I saw when he played for Fulham in pre-season, but that could be just going a bit over the top. But I think if you get him as your 4th choice midfielder, that's going to be absolutely unbelievable. And I think if you get him round 8, there's going to be a lot of midfielders that go prior to Smith Rowe that I don't think have the ability that Smith Rowe has. And personally, I hope it's going to be a fantastic year for Smith Rowe in terms of FPL points, because I really like him as a player and I think he has a lot going for him. And I think Fulham also could be a very decent side this year, and hopefully he will be the centre of that. On to our next one, and that is Semenyo. Again, not going under the radar so much yet because of Solanke's big money moves. So the first person they're thinking of, well, who will play up top? Unal. There's talks of Unal playing up top. There's talks of them Bournemouth buying another striker. So why I think Semenyo is kind of the best choice and not go for Unal, even though I like Unal, is because Semenyo can play right wing regardless. Even if they do buy a new striker, Semenyo will probably have a nailed down position in that side. Issue is that he is injury prone. Was out with like 2 or 3 injuries last year. But because Solanke is gone, if he does play up top, he has the ability. He's a really, really good finisher. I think he could be another 4th choice midfielder in your side. And why I love all these hidden gems is because I think these hidden gems are going to be the basis of a good draft. And what I mean by that is, if I have a watch list of Semenyo, Smith Rowe, Doku, and all the other players that I'm going to talk about, it gives me an opportunity to take my time with other positions, or take my time with the midfielder position. So if I'm thinking, okay, there's a big player going here in defence or in midfield, I have the option to go back to these kind of under the radar, or hidden gem picks when it's the later rounds. So if I know I have like 3 of my hidden gem picks still on my watch watch list. There's loads of time to come back and pick them up. So that gives me a kind of a better strategy when I'm picking other positions. Takes the pressure off, and if you got a Semenyo as your 4th or 5th choice midfielder, I don't think you're going to get him now. In them round 9, 10, 11, that would be huge. If you're picking him up any earlier than that, I think it's a big call, but it always depends on who is left, what other midfielders are available. I think if the kind of midfielder pick is getting low, right, and you can't really spot anyone, there's McNeil's and all these players left, I think Semenyo would be a great player to pick out of them. On to our next one, and this is a dude that I had really high hopes for, and I hope that it comes true. Dewsbury-Hall, and I suppose the strengths for him are very clear. Bought by Enzo, so he wants him to play the particular system. So he has a high upside. If he plays for Chelsea, they have a really good run of fixtures, and they have the potential to dominate teams if they kind of click. If they don't, obviously we know what Chelsea are like. But Dewsbury-Hall, he was bought for a particular role, particular position in Enzo's team. And if you actually watch and understand how Enzo plays, the advanced position that Dewsbury-Hall picks up could be very beneficial to him. If you did watch preseason, he got in some of them advanced positions. He didn't look like he was quite gelled with the team yet. There was a couple of his stray passes, but again, I think if he can nail down a position in that kind of advanced role for Enzo, he could go under the radar. He could be a lovely little player to have in your team. I think he got 12 goals, 14 assists. I know it was in the championship, but if he produced half of that, if he got 12, 13, 14, 15 goal and assists next season as a 4th choice midfielder or around 9, 10, 11 pick, that would be very good return on your positioning. Now I have a little asterisk beside round 8 because he went from round 6 to like around 11. So again, this is very dependent on maybe people who are watching football and people's opinions on him. I think, and it's one of the weaknesses, but might actually be a strength, I have written down here, Chelsea have 500 players. They just signed Neto. They have another attacking midfielder. I don't think that affects Dewsbury-Hall too much. I think Dewsbury-Hall will play in that advanced position, maybe coming in off the left. I think Sterling could be his biggest rival. So he's not nailed, and that's the big issue. But the biggest positive and the kind of flip on that is that he was bought by Enzo, and I think the way Enzo is, he'll want to implement what he does in a particular way, and if that involves Dewsbury-Hall, he will play him. So I do think that he could be value in the late rounds as a 4th choice midfielder. Again, add that midfielder to your watch list so it takes the pressure off picking other positions. And yeah, even maybe it's a 5th choice. Maybe it's a 5th choice now with the signing of Neto. I know I said it doesn't affect him, but there's another player to fight with. So if they do change a system, if he somehow changes the system, maybe Dewsbury-Hall isn't one of the priorities, but I do believe Enzo will keep that same system. Therefore, I think he could be a great under the radar pick. On to our next one, and that is Oscar Bobb. As I mentioned previously, Bobb looks like he could be up for that right wing position for City. At the start of the season, there wasn't much, we thought, he'll get in for the first couple of games. But for the Community Shield, he looked like City's best player by a mile. And I really think that this is a year, I know it's Pep, but I really think that this could be a year that Oscar Bobb could get a good chunk of minutes. So if you get him as a 5th choice midfielder in a late round, around 12, 13, 14, that would be great. And even if it's only for the first couple of games, some of the players I'm talking about next will be only, short punts because of other players out. Oscar Bobb as a 5th choice midfielder, and waiver him out in a couple of weeks if Pep does decide to act up, as he usually does, that's absolutely fine. But there is high upside with Bobb here. Anyone that plays for City in an attacking role has a high ceiling. His positioning, right wing, attacking right wing, he wasn't, tucking in, defending, so on and so forth. He was attacking right wing, one of City's most advanced players on the ball. So I think he could be unbelievable this year. If only it's the first couple of games, that's absolutely fine. I think if you take him as a 5th choice midfielder in later rounds, grand. I don't think I'd be looking at him in mid rounds, looking at maybe nailed on players for an average side. I'd be looking at them over Bobb. I think this would be a bit of a punt. I know it's a bit of a punt in normal FPL as well, But I think on draft night, you have to have your hidden gems or your differentials picked out. And if he's one of them, that's fine. But I wouldn't be going for numerous of these players. You got to pick one. And whatever one's left for your draft night on that particular time, that's grand. Go for one of those. But I would not be picking Bobb as a 4th choice midfielder, because there is a high possibility you'll have to waiver him out at some stage this year. But if you get him as a 5th choice and you get a good run for the first couple of games, I think that's good value. Next up is Carvalho, and he has just made his move to Brentford permanent. I think Carvalho was really good in pre-season. He looked decent in pre-season. The problem for Carvalho is that Shade for Brentford looked really good, and they both take up, they both prefer a left wing position. So I thought, oh, beautiful, they've Shade here, he's going to be a great asset, and then they go and buy Carvalho. So obviously he's not going to be nailed 100% straight away. He has got a lack of consistent minutes in that Liverpool side, very little. He's gone out loan many times, hasn't really got consistent minutes there apart from Hull last season. Now, the best thing about his stint at Hull was the fact that we saw him play in numerous positions, and we know he can do that. He can play not just on the left wing, he can drop in and play in around the middle if needed be by Brentford. So I think that is a good thing, one of his good attributes. His versatility is the key if you are going to pick him. If you're a Liverpool fan, I don't think I'll be prioritising him too much. He's more of a kind of one to watch for me. If you are really stuck, if you're in a big league, a 16 manager league, and you've left your last choice midfielder to last, I think Carvalho could be a great pick as someone who has a high upside for very little input. I suppose you can get him really late and he could be good. He could be a decent signing for Brentford, but I think if you're kind of targeting him as, oh yeah, he's going to be my differential, he's going to be my 4th or 5th choice midfielder, I think that mightn't be the best strategy. I think if it's kind of a last midfielder that you've nowhere else to go, he's a decent signing. He's not 100% nailed yet. He could go straight into that Brentford team because he has played good minutes in pre-season, but I think Brentford actually have a very strong forward line. Someone's going to drop out there. Shade, Wissa, Mbeumo, Tony. There's 5 in that kind of front 3 that they like to play. So unless he plays in a number 10 role or just straight up takes Shade's spot left wing, I think he's not going to be nailed. Therefore, I'd have him as a late pick. He hasn't been drafted in a lot, so there's a reason why. Next up is a very exciting young player for Wolves. What do you know? He's Portuguese. They just got rid of Neto. They brought in Rodrigo Gomes during the summer. We actually did a little post about him on Instagram if you want to check it out, kind of a bit more in detail, a couple of weeks back. He has been one of Wolves' best players in pre-season. He was absolutely quality. So he's came from Braga in Portugal and he has ripped it up. Okay, that's a bit excessive. He's been very, very good for Wolves in pre-season. If we look at his strengths and his weaknesses, a lot of them kind of overlap, and I have written down here easily wavered. What I mean by that is that if you don't draft him on draft night, it's no problem. He could be picked up. If you're in a smaller league, the chances are that he's not going to be drafted at all. But again, this is kind of like Carvalho. If you change your tactics draft night and you leave your last midfielder to a late pick, this is someone that can be a bit of a punt. This is someone that could have a high ceiling if he consistently plays. The problem is that he's not nailed. Has been excellent in pre-season, and of course Neto's departure means that there's one extra space in that team. But if you look at the Wolves side, they have some good players. He can play left and right wing and has played left and right wing, so maybe that Neto departure gives him the opportunity to play right wing. He has played left wing in pre-season. But I think, again, last choice midfielder, late rounds, on average he's not drafted. If he is, it's very late. So the chances are, if you're in a relatively small league, you will have a go at this dude. And I 100% believe that you will have him or want him in your team at some stage during the year. It might be only for 2 or 3 games in a row, but I can guarantee he's going to be on waiver watch at some point this year. And yeah, he's supposed to be Wolves' answer to Neto, so hopefully we see that, because he has been really exciting in pre-season. Edouard, and this is a guy that could break your heart, because so often you think he's going to play and then he drops out, but the chances are that he is going to play in the first 2 games for Palace because Mateta is coming back from the Olympics and will probably be given extra rest. He also has been good in pre-season. So the reason why I'm kind of recommending him is because not only will he get the first 2 games out of him, more than likely, but there is a chance that he could be in and around the team for the rest of the season. Mateta at the end of last season, like, you weren't getting in the team. You weren't breaking in at all. And Edouard didn't look like breaking in even when he came onto the pitch. But he has attributes that actually might help Glasner's team. The problem is that the way Glasner plays, unless he substitutes one of those wing backs and puts an attacking player at that wing back position and Edouard kind of behind that striker, if Mateta's playing, well, then he has to take Mateta's spot. So it's either taking Mateta's spot or taking one of the number 10 roles, Kamada or Eze's role, which is a very, very tough place to get into. But with his preseason form, with Mateta out for 2 games, I think if you're looking for a third choice or your third forward in a late round, Edouard will probably be there. If you are taking him as like your third forward to be your third forward for the year, I don't know if that's a good idea, because my recommendation is that you take your third forward within the first 8 rounds. Definitely you'd have your first 3 playing forwards within the first 8 rounds. So if anyone's after the 8th round that's a forward, chances are they're not going to be a consistent starter unless you get very, very lucky. And if there is any, please tell me. But Edouard for the first couple of games, and hopefully going forward, could be a great pick. And on to our last player, and I feel a real affiliation to this dude because 2 weeks ago I was like, oh my god, I was watching the mock drafts and he wasn't going or getting picked up late. I was like, oh my god, I can't wait to put this on YouTube for the last week and give everyone a third choice striker. Since then, Neto's gone and his average draft rank has come in. I've seen him gone in round 5. I was like, no, oh my god, this is one player that I really wanted. His average draft rank now in the mock drafts is around 9, round 8. As I said, it could be in slightly. I have him down as round 7 and 8 because I want him as my third forward, because I think the way I'm going to do it, hopefully, my strategy, unless things change, is go for obviously a striker round 1, round 2, depending on what position I get. Get my second striker around, before round 4 or 5, and then get my third striker, Larsen, hopefully around 7 or 8. That's like 2 forwards by round 3 or 4, and then my third choice forward by round 7 or 8, and then I'm kind of happy with my first 3 strikers. The thing about Larsen is that he's played very, very well in pre-season. He's a big number 9. I think it was Celta Vigo he came from, 14 goals last season. He's a big dude. He's an out-and-out number 9. Plays on the last man. So I think that actually brings Cunha's value down, because Cunha could be playing kind of behind him. If you watch his goals and how he scores goals, his positioning in the box is very, very good. So when we have hopefully Rodrigo Gomes going down the wing, Chan and so on and so forth, his positioning around or in between the centre backs is like a striker, obviously. Peeling off or taking a step forward or back just to get a little touch in. If you saw his assist in pre-season, he's done that before, where he go watch it. He backheeled it. He was with the ball is about to go out, and he rolled it back into the path of whoever it was. I cannot remember, but it was quality. Now, I think he's a good striker. I'm not saying he's going to break the record. He's the new Haaland. But I think as a third choice forward and someone who can get in round 7 and 8, it's probably going to play for me. I think he's going to play. And if not, he's going to play a lot of the games. He's 24, so it's not like they're bringing in a 19-year-old. He's 24, so he'll want to play. He has come in with a lot of confidence in saying, he's going to be the number 1 striker for Wolves. And I think it makes sense that Cunha goes behind him and he goes up top. So hopefully, maybe it's me convincing myself, but every time I watch him, I'm like, unreal, lovely, we have a starting striker. He isn't 100% nailed. I think he will start, but he's not 100% nailed. If you ask any Wolves fans, he has to start. And he is new to the league. So it's not like, he's been coming up through the Wolves ranks and so on and so forth. So he is new to the Premier League. He's a big, strong dude, so he's well able. Just hoping that people don't go too early on him. People don't figure this out before Wednesday or Thursday night. And hopefully the person that's in your group is not watching this video. Do not send it to them. But Strand Larsen as the number 9 for Wolves in a late pick. If you feel that you could get him even later, fine. But I think if you wait till round 9, I think he's going to be gone. As I said, I've seen him go very early in some drafts. I'm going to be aiming round 7 and 8 to get third choice. Starting forward, I'd be absolutely delighted with that. And I might even jump the gun just so I get 3 of them. Unless there's better players there. But yeah, nice little bit of value in a forward, thank God, that I think is going to play the majority of minutes. And hopefully score a few goals. Boom. If there is any hidden gems out there that we haven't thought of, give us a shout. Let us know who you think is going to be maybe your 5th choice midfielder or your 3rd forward or a late round defender and is going to be good for you. And that is our last bit of content. That will be put out prior to game week 1. Obviously on socials we're going to be active and giving you all the tips and tricks. So if you're not following on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that crack, make sure you do. Now, I will be hopefully streaming Wednesday evening 6 p.m. my draft. So it's League 1 of the Premiership, so the top division out of the 12 divisions of the T12 league. It's 12 manager leagues, 12 leagues, 2 divisions. So Championship has 6 leagues, Premiership has 6 leagues, and each league has 12 managers. I'm in League 1 in the top division, and hopefully I will be streaming it Wednesday 6 o'clock. So if you are interested, make sure to drop a like, comment, let me know if you want me to do it. I know 6 o'clock might be slightly early for some people, but you know, if you're around, tune in and sure, send me a comment, tell me who to pick, so on and so forth. I look forward to it. Thank you for all the support on all the videos, podcasts, and social media over the last couple of weeks. FPL Draft Joe out. Boom.